Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Primrose ZJBima. I post content about research, career development, and wellness. Today's episode is the second installation of Self-Improvement September. I would like to apologize for not posting a video last week. As some of you may have noted, I did indicate that I would not be putting up a video last week via YouTube notifications because I was attending to a funeral and other very taxing activities. Thus, I did not have the bandwidth to actually just sit down, record, and chat with you. However, we are back again. Welcome. And if you're new, please remember to subscribe. I really appreciate you all for watching this video today. And I hope that you also go a step further to like and share for wider reach. So in today's episode, I'm going to be speaking about self-improvement in relation to research, in relation to career development, as well as wellness. In as much as I will be focusing on my personal experiences and personal plans, the aim of these episodes is for you to also just sit down, think deeply, write down and plan ahead and think about ways of self-improving. I personally believe in continuous improvement in anything that I do in life. And planning is one of those things that you just have to do. Strategically moving on is important. And how best to do it is obviously to reflect, to be thinking about what to do moving ahead, and also aligning yourself with the demands of the world in a healthy way, of course. So in terms of research, I am currently reaching the completion stage of my postdoctoral research fellowship at the Stellenbosch University, and my key deliverables for this year had to be at least 2 journal articles. I did manage to submit a journal article that was accepted in the first quarter of the year, and I'm currently working on corrections for a book chapter that I submitted last year. But of course, because it's only going to be published this year or next year, it does also count as a deliverable. I was working on another paper that has taken me so much time because I had to go back into the field and do data collection. However, once I'm done with that, I will be done with postdocing and perhaps done with academia in the short run. So this is a very good way of seeing how much more I can do with myself research-wise, a good way for me to reflect and actually clap hands for myself for ticking the boxes and doing well before December. So I know that I am on track. This is my main hustle, so I cannot disappoint, and I have to deliver to match the funds that have been rewarded to me as a research fellow. And also just for integrity purposes, in addition, of course, to knowing that I can do very well in the areas that I've chosen. So one of the key issues that came up with regards to me doing this postdoctoral fellowship is that while I did my master's in international relations and my PhD in political studies and international relations, this postdoc was in gender. Gender and development is something that I've taught over the years since the year 2019. I also have been tutoring since the year 2015. So it's pretty much on my fingertips, right? And I also did an honors in gender and transformation. However, when I think about the bigger picture of where I want to go in life, I want to keep a strong hold on international relations and politics. So I felt that I was not ready to do a book project based on my PhD work, which was on electoral conflict, peacemaking approaches to electoral conflict, and looking at new ways of measuring the credibility of elections. However, thanks to, I think, a workshop that I attended recently, I spent a whole week last week rapporteuring at, and there was a focus on elections. So it really revived my interest, right? So I've been thinking over the past few months about how I can conceptualize maybe a paper on youth and voting with a specific focus on voter apathy, basically people that choose not to vote, and people that are not aware that they really need to vote and the benefits of it. And so the discussions at this workshop were very enriching. And I thought about how I could actually expand beyond thinking about a paper project, because I have so many papers in the pipeline, to do a book project. So I think a book, of course, needs a bigger focus, and me attending a workshop obviously was not like a complete light bulb moment, like, yes, this is what we're going to do. So I think I want to write a book that has something to do with elections and democratization and to a larger extent, youth involvement in politics. Personally, because it is something that hits home in terms of my experiences being a youther, battling with decisions around voting and thinking about the efficacy of democracy, not only within Zimbabwe, which is my home country, but also within Southern Africa and Africa broadly. And I think some of the important insights from the workshop I attended relate to the reality that although people still register to vote, lesser people are registering to vote, and lesser people within the youth age brackets of like 18 to 35 do register to vote. And of those who do actually register, fewer vote on polling day. So that's something that really needs to be looked into, because the reality is actually that youth are to a large extent politically engaged. If you think about the conversations they have, if you think about the grievances we have in relation to unemployment, amongst other economic challenges, and also if you just observe the trends on the likes of TikTok and Instagram, and to some extent LinkedIn and X, people do engage about democratization and politics and what they require of the political structures and governance in their different countries. So the workshop that I attended focused a lot on the use of survey data, which is of course quantitative, and I'm still very much a qualitative baby. And so I really want to converse, to engage with people who've made the decision to vote, the decision not to vote, and people's perspectives of their role in democracies through voting. So I do want to make use of both survey data that is already available and also my own insights. So this is really good because I've been speaking about how I want to incorporate quantitative analysis in my studies. And the reality is I don't always have to do the research myself. So for example, identifying key resources such as Afrobarometer survey data, and then complementing that by doing interviews or focus group discussions, and also maybe interviewing key informants, whether it's people from election management bodies, whether it's political party representatives, or it's actually young people who vote or young people who've decided not to vote. So I'm really excited about that. I really don't know how I'm going to start when it comes to this book, but I think thinking about it is very important. Engaging with relevant people is very important. Attending more events, especially dialogues, whether seminars, webinars, or workshops where these issues are being further unpacked would be really helpful. And also just reading ahead, reading what is already available, because sometimes we think that we're filling in a gap in knowledge when people have actually written about this. And while journal articles are usually very good because I'm intending to write a book, I think reading more books on this particular matter would be more helpful, whether it's from the African continent or other contexts, because I'm trying to come up with a book that adds to that existing knowledge. So I really look forward to taking a break from writing journal articles and book chapters. I do intend, of course, if something comes up that I feel like could be contributed to ongoing research, I will, but I don't want my book to be shortchanged. So I think doing a book project will be very important. So moving forward beyond 2024, I want to relieve my duty of the pressure that comes with postdocing. I stand to be corrected in the event that I do get another postdoc, which I hope does not happen. So really, I want to move on by doing a book. And books do come with a certain level of prestige. I'm already a doctor. I've got articles. I've got book chapters. I've got conference presentations, but I do not have a book to my name. So as we rise higher, we aim for bigger and better and, more credible ways of being acknowledged in the world of research. I'm not only doing this, like I said earlier, just for the research purposes and credit, but I'm also doing it because I'm passionate about youth elections as well as the dynamics of voting in relation to democratization. All right. So what are your research interests? What have you done for now research-wise? Is it a bachelor's, an honors, a master's, a PhD, a postdoc? And what do you intend to do to further contribute to knowledge production through writing and also through conducting further research, whether in one area that you've been focusing on over the past few years or in a completely new field? Think about it, write about it. You don't necessarily have to share in the comments section below, although I'd really be excited to also know what other researchers are doing out there. All right. So my second point, in addition to research, is of course career development. Personally, of course, I'm a researcher. So what I've already mentioned, caters to career development. I've mentioned already that maybe exiting academia briefly. I'm not sure how long briefly would be. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. I don't know, maybe longer. But definitely with the aim of coming back in future, because professorship is something that I will be aiming towards. So I think I've given myself that challenge to say that if God gives me many more years in life, I do want to become a professor, to contribute to the academy as such, and of course to be a globally renowned thought leader and knowledge producer. Okay, so in order for me to grow, I think I want to grow in so many other ways. I'm thinking of working on more reports outside academia. So engaging with civil society organizations, non-governmental organizations, and also international organizations, reaching out whenever there's a call for people to conduct research and develop policy briefs. I see some of these on LinkedIn and I have shared some of those on that particular platform if you're also interested. And also just speaking to people from different organizations to hear what kind of projects they're doing, speaking to them about the events they hold and thinking about, do they want to conduct, assessments and write up reports on the work they've been doing. I think it is very important to document, because in as much as work is done, if it is not documented, we can't learn from the past adequately, because we need to identify what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats as we go ahead into the future. So monitoring and evaluation, reports are also part of that. So I really hope to be engaged in more non-academic spaces and to contribute in that regard research-wise, so that when I'm a professor in a particular area, I will be well-rounded, and whatever I deliver will be informed by a multitude of perspectives as well as approaches to doing research just beyond academia and linking theory to reality. So I'm also thinking about how, if I want to be a professor, it's time to think about developing a niche. And you hear through all my conversations, I think every other week, I speak gender, I speak politics, international relations, women in politics, women in international relations. And I think that crafting a niche is very important. And as much as I want to be someone who does research in a wide range of areas, it might actually hurt my potential to sharpen my skills in one particular area. So I need to think about what I want to master. Over the times, I've always relied on thinking, no, I should first get into an organization, get established, and then develop my niche from there. So for example, when I was working in foreign affairs, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on foreign policy analysis and development. But when I stepped out and went into academia and did research on democratization and diplomacy, I was like, I need to link both. And being a gender teacher, gender is always, on my fingertips, on my, front of my head. I'm like, I can't leave it out in anything. So I think there's a way to combine all of that, but coming up with a niche. I don't know what that niche will be. So I think I'm giving myself 3 to 6 months to think deeply about what I want to shift into. And it has to be independent of me being employed by someone. So for example, yes, I want to work for UN Women, but what if that doesn't happen to me in a few months, or if at all? What if I am interested heavily in elections and I want to wait until I'm like part of an election management body or an electoral resources network and I don't end up being part of that? So I need to think deeply about the niche I want to choose and ways that I will carve out my career trajectory in that particular area. I will, of course, keep an open mind, but I need to choose one main area. And then I'm thinking one of the ways of doing this could also be just a retreat. I don't have time to take a break right now, but I think towards the end of this year, I just want to sit down with myself, go away for a week or two, like reflect on the work that I've done over the past, 1 to 3 decades of my life, reassess where I think that I can go, and think about ways of reskilling myself and also ways of using already existent resources. I know I want to reskill in terms of gaining skills in economics. I know I want to reskill in terms of gaining skills in French. I know I want to reskill in terms of gaining skills in quantitative data analysis, as well as using social media tools for effective engagement. So I can already see myself enrolling in relevant courses. I can already see myself in maybe crafting a 1 to 5 year calendar, indicating which course I want to study and when, which one is more important to go for first, and how to budget, if I need to actually pay for those courses or skills training, and if there's any resources in terms of people or sites or organizations that I can approach or work with, even if it's like a free internship, to gain a better understanding and usage of skills, for example, in economics and quantitative data analysis, I need to do that. It also will inform the kind of networks I become part of. So as a researcher, you definitely need to join research organizations or associations. So for example, this year, because my postdoc was situated in sociology, I've been part of the South African Sociology Association, SASA. And I think as an international relations scholar, I've also found the importance of joining international politics associations. So thinking about continuing with that, but also finding one that is very niche in relation to what I end up choosing as my unique area where I want to contribute when I eventually become a professor. So that's all in terms of career. The reality that I constantly need to self-improve by thinking, refining my thoughts, and coming to a conclusion of what it is I want to do in the short run, in the medium to long term. So in addition to research and career goals, I value very highly wellness, and everyone should do so, regardless of how old or young you are, regardless of how energetic and driven you feel. It is important. And for me, research wise, I feel drained a lot when I don't get enough rest. So sleep needs to be added, and it needs to be quality sleep, and it needs to be as long as it takes for me to reboot. Of course, not sleeping for like 16 to 24 hours, but thinking deeply about ways to structure how I rest, in particular in relation to sleep. Sleep is a very good way of resting your mind and your body as well. So as a runner, it comes as a good way of, reviving myself, recovering from strenuous activity. Same applies to when I do hiking and long walks. So I'm still recovering from an injury. I cannot hike. I can do walks. I can do dance workouts at home. I won't be doing gym because I'm saving up on money, and there's so many ways I can strength work out at home thanks to the physiotherapy I have been getting over the past few months. I now know that. And then in terms of running, I'm just going to move gradually from doing fewer 5 kilometer runs and maybe to 10 kilometers. This is because I've realized that going back to running, yes, I've been doing 5 kilometers because I can't run as long as I used to in the past. But I come back home, I don't feel fulfilled, and I feel like I was just beginning to sweat at 5 kilometers. So I think I've done enough 5 kilometer runs to be confident enough to try and get back to running as far as at least 10 kilometers. So I've drafted up, how I'm going to do that moving forward. And one of my goals is to run a 10-kilometer race in October of this year, which is coming up pretty soon, the Sanlam 10K Peace Run. Looking forward to that, so I'll be training towards that. And if I'm lucky, I will scoop my personal best because, self-improvement also comes with like improving your times in running, although you don't always have to aim for that. Okay, so I've also realized that wellness to a large extent involves decluttering. I am on social media a lot in as much as I work a lot. I say a lot because I use Instagram, I use Facebook, I go to X, I use TikToks to distress or to help with my insomnia, of which I feel like it extends my insomnia. I also use LinkedIn a lot. So just to think about decluttering my mind and my engagement online by intentionally limiting how much I spend in terms of time on those spaces. I have reduced the amount of posts that I make on Instagram. I cannot say the same for LinkedIn and WhatsApp because I use them for constant communication rather. So I think I can stay away from Facebook. That has never been challenging. And I think it's because it's not like a primary way that I engage, except for maybe when I'm sharing based on my runs or sharing on my developments in terms of like my YouTube channel posts. So I just want to do that and focus more on spending time away from screens. I do a lot of research, which means most of it is desktop. If I'm attending webinars, it's also online. Some of my meetings are online, and then I'm writing online. So I feel like I need to reduce my screen time overall. And I think I will have a deliberate strategy on how that's going and how to do that as we come into the next week. But I think that it's something that I can do. I also want to declutter from moving away from LinkedIn and Instagram, because in as much as I'm self-assured, know what I'm doing, know where I want to go, I am not exempt from feeling like I'm not doing enough with my life and feeling like I could do better, or feeling like I should have done life differently because other people who are doing different things are doing way better in life. So I think it's also very, very important. And then another note on wellness, I personally believe in being prayerful, in praising and worshiping God, my creator, as a Christian, and also just being thankful to people that have been part of my life journey, helping me, as well as to God above all. And to be intentionally joyful. There's so many things that could be depressing if I think about them. Work is always stressful. My career is always something that stresses me because, I am a precarious, uh, yo, the list is endless. So I think that I do want to ensure that my prayer rituals are more deliberate and well structured. And I've discovered that I talk to God better. I praise and worship God better if I'm doing so in my home language, which is Shona. So I've been deliberately doing that, and I feel closer to God in that regard. And in as much as I'm in spaces that are mostly English medium centric, I can do that at my own time, in my own space. And I feel that it does help me out. So I also encourage you to find ways of being closer to your creator spiritually, being prayerful, being hopeful, being thankful, being joyful, and always knowing that God has his own ways. So for me personally, I've also decided to be more deliberate about surrendering everything that I do to God. Yes, over like the first 20 years of my life, I was probably obsessed with saying, God, this is what I want you to do for me. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to study. But I feel like I've shifted to a stage where I'm like, God, this is what I'm doing. But I feel like you know better. And I might actually be selling myself short. And I might actually be doing what is not supposed to be for me. So please redirect me, connect me with the right people, help me to make the right applications, and also bring to me what I require that I do not know that I actually require. And I think God has been very faithful in that regard. And I just want to say thank you to God, my creator, on this particular platform, although I do thank him in my personal space. And again, I encourage you to establish a relationship with the creator. And I will not impose any particular religion on you. But for me, it has been very beneficial and very life changing. It has been life changing since like when I was young, but I think that I'm at a stage where I'm very much more deliberate about those particular rituals and routines that relate to praising and worshiping God, to being thankful, as well as to just taking everything to him, because I myself alone cannot tackle anything. I am not actually the victress. God is the owner of my life, and he's the director of my life. He's the CEO, whatever you may want to call it. And I'm just literally a tool that has come into this world to show how great God can be in one or many more particular areas, and hopefully to make a mark, not only of excellence, but also to contribute to changing people's lives in a meaningful way. Okay, before I go off on a rant of how much I am grateful for God and everything, this is what I have for this week. I hope that you find it insightful and find some of these key points applicable to your life. I will see you in the next one. Have a great week moving forward.